Okay.
There's the robot
Who's
voice.
the idiot with the thing on his head?
Strong words for your progeny.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so guys, here's where you may want to check out like gallery view versus speaker view. Speaker view is going to show you big who's speaking.
Oh, now I can see
Gallery
it.
view is everything. Let me also grab, I got an awesome cheat sheet from Grandma Marianne. I'm going to quick grab it. It's just right behind me. Okie dokie. So I was hearing stories last week about relatives that I didn't even really know that I had. So Marianne has this really cool thing that goes over like your relatives, right? Like Frank and Bessie. So Grandpa Dale, and I'm probably going to toggle between like calling you Grandpa Dale, I'm just calling you Dad if I forget.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, so your dad and mom went and they lived on the farm that Frank and Bessie lived on.
Yes.
And they ended up buying that farm. But so you lived with your grandparents for a while?
Well, I don't remember that. I don't know when they left, or
Yeah.
they weren't around to the best of my knowledge. They may have been when I was born, but it wasn't there.
Yeah.
When I
So do you remember them at all? Like, do you remember like have any kind of impression?
No.
Were they like friendly?
No, never
or
met them, never had any contact.
Weird. Like not even like birthday gifts like from Grandma and Grandpa, or?
No.
Huh. I wonder if maybe there had been a falling out, or because that just seems weird to me. But
No, I don't know what happened to them and why.
yeah.
I do remember that, and I must have been about 2. We were in Boyd, and Mother's dad tried to give me a nickel.
That would be Theodore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't take it because I didn't know who he was.
Oh, geez. At 2, huh?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, I don't know if they were proud or surprised or what. I think Grandpa Anderson was a little put out, but you know, how was I to know?
Well, and then a nickel would actually be some money. Like nowadays, it'd be like, you know, why do you want me to carry that?
Anyway.
Aha. Okay. So let's see what else. And I, you know, because I was thinking more like asking questions about when you were a teenager, but I still have questions too from before then. Like what do you remember of your dad? Because I've never heard you talk about him at all.
Well,
I've heard other people tell stories. Like I heard Grandma Hazel talk about the fact that he was always like perfect, right? In her memory, he was perfect.
yeah,
You know,
I like that.
Kind and handsome and.
I like to hang around with my dad.
Yeah.
Now, when he was on the farm, he was working, of course, and I wasn't that old.
Yeah,
so he was in the fields and I was in the house.
Yeah.
When we moved to town, he was in the restaurant working and I was out on the streets running. And then later on, when he went to work for the hardware store, usually there was times in the winter when they didn't have jobs and they'd hang around the hardware store, and I enjoyed being around him and his cronies. His cronies didn't necessarily appreciate my hanging around. I was too young. But you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't know. I know that he worked hard. He tried.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it was a hard time for so many people in the country in general.
Well, yeah, it was
trying to make ends meet.
Right. Yep. Trying to make enough money off the farm to pay off the farm. And when we sold the farm, they made enough money to pay it off. So it was free and clear at that time.
Right, but it's not like they made a lot of money and then could float for a while.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they came out dollars and cents wise in the total total of payoff and everything. That was above my pay grade at the time.
Right, but it was always working.
Yeah.
Yep.
For a couple of winters he worked for a guy by the name of Jim Running.
Mhm.
They were, forgotten the process, but you cull eggs. The farmers bring in their eggs in 40 dozen containers.
Yeah. Those
And you
big,
pick-
huge square
Yeah,
ones.
you pick out each egg and you put it up to a light to make sure it hasn't matured.
Yeah.
It was still good. And that was earning $1 an hour doing that.
Oh my gosh. That's humbling.
And in 1950, he bought a new Ford. He borrowed the money from Aunt Mabel.
Mhm.
And when he paid her off, I was invited to go upstairs with him and deal out $2,100 bills.
Wow. So it was Aunt Mabel, and who was her husband again?
Eric
Uncle Eric, and their last name was
Plowman.
Plowman. Okay.
Remember last week I talked about the two ladies in Iowa? Jim's wife was Rhett for Loretta,
Okay. Jim
and
Running or no, Jim Stevens?
Jim Stevens.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And Claude's wife was Vi.
God, was
I don't know if
Vi.
it was Violet or Viola or
Okay.
Vivian or what.
Might even say it on here. Well, no. No, I don't see it on here anyway. Okay. Violet or something.
Yeah, Vi.
That was in Esterville?
Yeah,
Okay. Esterville, Iowa. Yeah, I mean, I could have relatives in Esterville, Iowa, and I didn't even know it.
I would imagine you do have. Yeah.
Yeah, weird. Have you ever been back to Esterville, or like, have you ever looked up any of these folks?
No, the only cousin that was in my age group, I guess, is Merlin, who lives he
Florida.
used to live in Bellevue, Nebraska.
Oh,
He
okay.
retired from the Air Force as a colonel.
Mhm.
And they moved to a retirement center across the border into Iowa. And I'm not sure, I don't have that town address with me right now.
Okay. Did Merlin come to one of Grandma Hazel's birthday parties?
Yes, he flew his airplane from Nebraska up to Sauk Center.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
He had a blue airplane,
I don't remember the color, but I remember
and
there
I
was
had given him
big deal.
a number for, I don't know, my cell phone or the hotel or something.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, every bit of information I had provided him was wrong.
Oh no.
And so he was at the airport and he was getting a little upset. And we
Uh-huh.
just happened to drive out there and there he was. So fortunately, but see that at that event, Merlin Stevens met Florin Stevens and Bobby Stevens, their first cousins, for the very first time.
That is so strange to me that family was so disjointed that they weren't closer.
Well, see, Florin was killed in the war,
Yeah.
so there was no interaction there.
Uh-huh.
And Bobby Stevens' dad passed away before I remember.
Uh-huh.
So his mother lived with her two brothers, the Gilbertson brothers in Boyd, or outside of Boyd on a farm. And Merlin living in Esterville, Iowa, there was no reason for him ever to
Yeah.
get together.
Hmm.
And Bobby Stevens' mother remarried, and so he had two half sisters.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's,
Part of that family.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Bobby's mother also came to one of Mother's birthday parties. They were about the same age,
Wow.
but Mother hadn't seen her for 50 plus years.
That's pretty cool. So we were talking about when you were little, and I mean, if the other kids I have questions, I would love to hear them too. But I was sort of like wanting to move into a little more like, you mentioned that in high school you guys started a huge bonfire that was so bright it caught the attention and the ire of some of the people in town.
3 blocks away, yeah.
Okay. So what he was saying, that there was like a tradition of like the sophomores would start a bonfire. So they had their nice little bonfire, but then he and his friends like did their own version. and they
Of
put on
weeds,
tumbleweeds,
tumbleweeds,
which was really fast and really hot and really bright, surprise everybody.
and all the sophomore girls went crying and screaming, our bonfire, our bonfire.
Well, and there must not have been all that many of them anyway, right? Because I mean, how many people were in a graduating class in Boyd?
Well, it was 21 in my class,
Okay.
and less than that in the sophomore class.
Yeah.
We were one of the larger classes.
Wow. That's different.
And keep in mind the mix is 16 boys and 15 boys and 6 girls.
Oh my goodness. But that was just for your class, right? I mean, that wasn't wasn't always heavy on boys.
No, just our class.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to think of little things like I don't know if it was my 3rd or 4th birthday, probably the 4th, because our neighbors were Truman Melms. And of course, Vice President Truman was going to become president when Roosevelt died.
Mhm.
And I couldn't get it in my head how the next door neighbor was going to be president of the United States. And you remember I told you about the $50 I'd gotten at the funeral of my uncle? Well,
The what?
the $50 50-cent piece.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Well, I'd gotten a bank, about a 6-inch long bank, 3 inches high and 4 inches deep, something like that. Anyway, I had kept that all in time until it disappeared when we moved from Green Slope.
Right. Yes. I just remembered like a little stagecoach bank that I had when I was little that maybe came from Rapid City, or bank in Rapid City.
Could
And
have
it was
been.
a metal one and it looked like a stagecoach, and I had it forever. And I have no idea where that would be, but I always loved that bank.
Yeah.
Maybe it still has money in it somewhere.
I always wanted to know what happened to your lighted snail I brought from the Philippines.
I don't know where that went. I had a lighted globe though forever. I mean, it probably still
Yeah,
is.
that's what it was. It's a lighted globe, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I had a snail too. I had a snail lamp too.
One of the other items that I always remember is when we had got electricity on the farm. Now the rural electric company would bring the power on the poles up to the central light pole in the yard at the farm. And then you hired a company to come in and wire all your buildings.
Mhm.
And I think it had to have been at Thanksgiving time. We went to, I'll say Minneapolis, to Aunt Sletta's house for Thanksgiving. And keep in mind, we had the 41 Ford, and you drove 30 miles an hour. Anyway, coming home, it was dusk or a little after. And as we crossed the hill, we could see the yard light on the farm.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
That meant that it had gotten wired up, and
that changed your life completely.
I bet, huh? And you had an outhouse, right? Because there were no indoor plumbing.
Right, correct.
So how did you just would have to go in the dark if you had to go in the middle of the night?
Well, yeah, that's right. You could have a lantern, I guess, but
Yeah.
generally didn't go at night. You had
Yeah.
a little chamber potty.
Okay. Yeah. And did you have your own bedroom when you were on the
No.
farm?
No, I shared it with my brother.
Okay.
We talked about that on the
Well, I
farm.
didn't. I mean, I know that oh wait, so on the farm you lived with Mabel and Eric.
No,
or
no,
that
no,
was in town.
no, in town.
Okay.
In town and on the farm, we had an upstairs.
Uh-huh.
As you climbed the stairs, there was a little, I hate to use the word sitting room, but just an open space. And then the house was divided down the center where the chimney would come up, and that heated both rooms.
Yeah.
And one was where I slept, or Roger and I slept, and the other was, if you will, the master bedroom suite.
Yeah.
But then when Dad had his heart attack, they moved that bedroom downstairs to a separate room.
So your brother, who was 8 years older than you, got a little kid moved into his bedroom. He must have loved that.
Yeah, he always did. Yeah. And of course, he kind of outweighed me, so it was
Kind of.
a habit to sleep between the mattress and the wall.
Oh no, because he would like just roll over you or something.
Well, I didn't roll over, but he was.
Yeah.
know.
Oh, because the mattress would sink down. 'Cause it's
Yes.
not like you had like a full mattress or anything.
Yeah, I'd have to hang on for dear life.
Oh, geez. And then you guys didn't go to the same school hardly because he was so much older.
Correct. When I went to country school one year, my first grade, there was a lady by the name of Wold, and I can't remember her first name, but anyway, they lived west of us, and she would come and pick up Roger and take him to school in Boyd, where she taught.
Yeah. So country school is like a one room and everybody goes and learns.
Well, it was bigger than one room. We actually were high class. We had a furnace room and we had a couple, at least two other rooms.
Okay.
But
Did
we
they
only
go
had
by
one
age?
teacher.
Oh, one teacher though.
Yeah, one
Oh, it's
teacher
close, huh?
for all 8 grades.
Yeah, but there weren't that many kids probably.
Well, we had 6 in first grade, but that was one of the bigger classes.
Yeah.
But you never did what you were supposed to be doing. You're always listening to what they were teaching the 8th graders.
Oh yeah.
By the time, if I'd have stayed there when I was 8th grade, I'd been a straight A student.
And was it like, 'cause it's my impression of school back then was it was like you got your knuckles smacked, like you got, if you didn't pay attention.
No.
Okay.
We had lady teachers and they were very nice and we were all very nice kids.
Okay.
We only turned into devils when we congregated in town, in the
Okay.
town school.
So
big
when you were
time.
on the farm, you were young and innocent, and by the time you got to the big city of Boyd.
Oh yeah, I remember that the week before first grade started, Mother put a piece of paper on the desk and says, "Here's the ABCs, copy those down." That was my preschool.
Uh-huh. Well,
So anyway,
that's funny for preschool. You should see, you'd be kind of blown away if you saw Sam's preschool.
I can imagine.
It's pretty high end. Anyway, but I don't know that he knows his ABCs anyway. So.
Well, I'm not sure I ever learned mine either. I still can't get through a dictionary in a timely manner.
But he does know how to formulate a hypothesis and then test it with data and make observations. So, I'm love to hear more stories of when you're little. And if these guys who I'm looking at now, you don't know that, but I'm pointing because I'm seeing the faces of my niece and nephews. But if they have more questions too, that'd be great. Otherwise, we can kind of move up to when you were setting bonfires and causing ruckus.
Well, I guess one of the other items that after we got electricity on the farm, keep in mind you milked the cows and you had a separator. After you were done milking, you put the milk in the separator and you'd separate the cream from the milk. Well, I don't know, maybe about 1943, we built a milk house over the well and we would hand pump water into a vault, if you will. That was about 3 by 5 maybe. And you could put the cream cans, milk cans in there to keep them cool. And we'd keep that full of water. Well, when we got electricity, we could put electric motor on the separator and you didn't have to crank this thing every night. So that was a major improvement.
I bet. Yeah. So you never had running water though on the farm, right?
No.
You have that when you moved to Boyd.
Well, yeah, we did have. We didn't have a sewer system even in the restaurant.
Wow.
You had to go outside, but we did have water, hot water and cold water.
Okay. Crazy. Was it outhouse? Is that where everybody went?
Yes.
Like the community outhouse?
Well, when the community outhouse, if you were at the restaurant and wanted to use the bathroom, you had to go out to the outhouse. There was
Yeah.
a men's and a women's
Right,
way things were.
right. It's like camping all the time.
Yeah.
So you are now in high school in Boyd, right? Was high
Yeah.
school like 8th grade and up or something, or 9th grade?
Ninth.
Like, was it one school for, you were in the country school and then the Boyd school?
Yes.
Okay, so from 9th grade up, probably?
Yes. Well, no, I went to Boyd School from second grade
Okay,
through 12th grade.
okay. So
And-
did they have two different buildings for the little and the big kids,
No.
or?
No.
Huh.
Well, we had classrooms.
Yeah,
The first and second grade classrooms, third and fourth grade classrooms, fifth and sixth grade classrooms, seventh and eighth. And then ninth grade, you were consolidated in a bigger, I don't know what you want to call, homeroom. There we go.
uh-huh,
And then there was your science room and your English room, and all off from that central study
Yeah.
house.
that seems kind of fancy.
And you had your, well, it was, and we had our individual desks. And so the freshmen had one row, and or how many, and the sophomores had rows, and that's
Mhm.
where it was set up.
Is that the same school that Mary Ann went to?
Well, she went to a school in Dawson, Minnesota, which was a neighboring town.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. When her folks bought a farm near Boyd,
Mhm.
they, everyone came to Boyd, all the kids, except Mary Ann.
Because she was the oldest.
Yeah, she was the oldest, and she stayed with an aunt and uncle until she could finish, I think, her sophomore year.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember if it was a junior year or senior year, then she came to Boyd.
Was Dawson a smaller town, or was it like
No,
a
no, no, he was
bigger?
bigger town.
Oh, okay. It must
Boyd
have been a
was-
little let down then.
Boyd was one of the smaller ones in the area.
So you didn't know her maybe because she was Uncle Roger's age, but her brothers and sisters?
Well,
were you
her
cool
brother
with?
her brother sat in front of me.
Oh,
in
okay.
school, Salting Stevens.
Oh, yeah, for yeah,
Well, I knew who she was,
yeah.
and she was a cheerleader,
Uh-huh. Oh, I didn't know that.
and she was kind of the teacher's pet and all that kind of stuff, because she was going to go off and be an English teacher. And
Uh-huh.
she had about at least two outstanding brain students in her class that I don't want to say were competition, but that were kind of, one went to Mankato with her, Larry Pratt, and I can't remember the other one's name. But anyway, and coming to Boyd for her was kind of a come down, but it seemed to work out.
In the long run, I guess it did, huh?
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your high school self, oh yeah, that's the person you're gonna marry, would you have had any, like, you would have been like, yep, I see it, or like, no.
Well, it was out of the realm at the time because of the age difference. And then she got married after college, and, you know, again, it was out of the realm. And then when her husband passed away, I was trying to figure out whether she was married or not. And then I found out that she was married for a while, but later divorced. And I didn't have anything else to do, so
So, because you weren't living in Minnesota though at the time, you were
I
living
was in
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's kind of a long distance romance there.
But I had gone back for the class home or all school reunion. We didn't have class reunions, we had all school reunions.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have like 6 people there and you'd be sitting
Yeah, right.
playing bridge or something. Okay, that's fun. So when you were in high school though, did you have a girlfriend?
No,
I mean, there were like only 5 girls in your class, right?
yeah,
I mean, maybe it was people didn't really pair up then. You
no.
just- yeah.
Dear, did you come to Boyd as a junior or senior?
Junior.
Junior year, okay.
Hi, Joan.
And it was,
Yeah.
we were just talking about how disappointing it must have been for you.
Well, I thought I had been in a big school, and I was
Yeah.
like in a big school. And then here was little Boyd,
Right.
but it was an okay 2 years, junior and senior year, but that was a hard time to switch schools.
Yeah.
I'd gone to
For
Dawson
anybody.
first through 10th grade, so
Uh-huh. Oh, they only went through 10th?
yeah. And then
Oh,
it was my junior and senior year at Boyd.
yeah. So where did the people from Dawson go to junior and senior year?
Well, they had their,
No, they had their, but it was, their dad had bought a farm at Boyd.
Right. Okay. I thought you meant that their school capped it at grade 10 and they had
No,
some
no,
other thing.
no,
Okay, got it.
no.
You just had to leave all your friends.
Well, and so Dad and the rest of the family moved like in March of my sophomore year, and this couple that didn't have any children, and he owned an implement shop and she worked in a grocery store. And they just begged for me to beg Dad to let me live with them for the rest of the year so that I could stay in Dawson and go to finish my sophomore year. So I did.
That's weird. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. You know, I can't imagine begging anyone for their children to. Maybe they just felt sorry for you too. I mean, you were probably a great kid.
well, what's the difference between sending your kid off to boarding school, which is,
Yeah. No, but I mean, for the family with no kids to be like, oh, please let her stay with us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, Mom used to do all the grocery shopping in the store where Mrs.
Uh-huh.
Breberg worked, and they just loved my mom. And then when they found out we were moving to Boyd,
Uh-huh.
and she says, "Oh, please let Marianne finish her sophomore year, and she can live with us."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, did you stay in touch with that family at all?
Oh, yeah. They've since passed away, of course,
Yeah.
but
They didn't have any kids, right? So.
no.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask too. So Mabel and Eric, Auntie Mabel and Uncle Eric, they didn't have any children?
no,
Oh, okay.
she had a stillbirth.
Hmm.
The cord had been wrapped around the neck and
Awful.
so anyway, that was the only child.
Joan, did you get my?
I did. Yes.
Oh,
I was showing them that I have this handy cheat sheet now.
uh-huh.
But I was looking for Claude and I didn't see it. So maybe it's Claude is his middle name? Cloyd. Maybe it's Claude instead of, it says Cloyd Franklin. Claude Franklin. Okay.
And I'm not absolutely sure. Whichever's on the paper is more correct than me.
Okay. Well, maybe they just spelled it weird. But it doesn't say his wife on here. So,
Bye.
bye. Okay. Anyway, yeah, this is awesome.
Well, good.
Okay.
I figured you had some of that stuff, but
Yeah. Now, I thought that there were Plowmans that you guys went to school with or something, because I like, not Denny Plowman or no?
No, Denny
Coolman.
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 Okay. And Denny Coleman was one of your friends.
Denny
who
Coolman
you went
lived
to
on,
South Dakota State with.
yeah, he went, see, they lived on the same section.
Okay.
The section usually contained 4 farms of 160 acres each.
Yeah.
And so they were our next door neighbors, if you will, on the farm. So we would do birthday parties and social events. And in 1948, they went back to Germany. And I guess we were in the restaurant, I can't remember. But anyway, we moved out and lived on their farm while they were in Germany to take care of the animals. And
So they didn't move back. They just went back to to visit.
yeah.
No, but when my dad and I went back for my dad's first trip back, he grew up in the same area that the Kuhlmans did in Germany. So we visited and Dad was a good friend of the Kuhlmans also in
Yeah.
Boyd. And there were 2 couples of them, 2 brothers who had come from the same area in Germany that Dad did. So when Dad and I went over for his first trip over, he had not been there for 48 years.
Jeez.
And anyway, we visited all the Kuhlman relatives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So are you guys still friends? Like, is Denny Coleman still around?
No, Denny Coolman, of course, worked for Honeywell.
Uh-huh.
And he moved a couple different places. He had a master's degree in electrical engineering. And he was a program manager for the electrical system on the Boeing 777. airplane. He was a design lead. But his wife had passed away about, I don't know, 6 months before. And it isn't real clear what happened, but he had apparently gone to the hardware store and maybe forgot something. And he went to do a U-turn and was broadsided and killed instantly. And
This was in Colorado.
yeah,
Mm. Oh, well, that happened a few years ago or a long time ago or?
no, it's about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I would say.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess that's a good way to go if you had to pick something.
Well,
But it
he
hurts
had
for everybody else.
an airplane ticket to come to Huntsville to see us
Oh,
because he was still kind of depressed. And I said, you need to get out of there. You come here.
yeah. Well,
And
he didn't get out of there, didn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
Picked a one-way ticket.
And his brother Robert was in my class in
Uh-huh.
Boyd.
Did he have kids? Did he?
yeah,
and his
they
wife?
had,
Denny, yeah, they had 3 daughters.
Oh, wow.
no, they had a son, 2 daughters
Oh,
and a
2
son.
daughters and a son, right.
Okay.
And they all live in Colorado, as far as I know.
But anyway, Denny and I, well, they went to a different country school, first grade. So when we moved into town, the only time we'd see them was on like Saturday night when they'd come in to do grocery shopping.
Mhm.
And then freshman year in high school, he came into school in Boyd. So we had 4 years of in the same class. And then we both went out to Brookings with the interview and signed up to attend South Dakota State for 4 years.
Mhm.
And then he had, because of he was being electrical engineer and been working for co-oping with Honeywell. I guess it was my junior year that he was there in the fall, and then in the wintertime I got another roommate. And in the spring I had I can't remember if then he came back or whatever. But then our senior year we were off campus together for a while.
You lived on the dorms then first, and then you got a house somewhere.
Yeah, senior year we lived off campus in basement.
So were you like, was school mostly just work? It was just hard work? Or were there like places in town you'd go out and like, have beer or dance? Or like, what did you do when you were in South Dakota?
Oh, in South Dakota, you pretty well did your schoolwork because you didn't dare get behind.
Mhm.
Of course, you've been in school, so you know how that is. There's a lot of stuff going on in your assignments. So one of the things, our freshman year particularly, first thing we'd do, we'd come home at 4 o'clock and we'd get our math homework done. And then we'd go have dinner.
So this is before calculators.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because this is not a frame of reference that just about anybody has nowadays, that you were doing math without a calculator.
On a pencil and paper, yeah, doing algebra. Of course, now they're doing the same algebra in junior and senior in high school.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had both had math classes in Boyd, but our first math class, they were talking about stuff I'd never heard before, but you just picked it up and you just learned the process
Yeah.
of how to manipulate the numbers and formulate an answer. It was kind of interesting. In one of the math classes, I had a lady by the name of Ingebrigtsen, and Denny had her roommate, and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, the 2 teachers would give the same tests.
Oh, geez.
Well, Ingebrigtsen I perceived was a pretty decent teacher, and when you took a test, you start when she rang the bell or whatever, and you finished when the bell rang.
Mhm.
Because the other teacher wasn't quite as efficient. Denny said no one ever got through her tests. About halfway through, the time was up. So that was kind of an interesting
Oh, that
comparison.
she just didn't teach it as well, or like,
Yeah, right.
shoot.
But anyway, so we always did our math first, and then our other subjects we just kind of picked up as necessary.
Mhm.
But we would eat at the freshman year, there was a cafeteria that we were obligated to eat in unless you had a doctor excuse
Mhm.
for medical reasons, poor little tummies, nervous. Other times we'd go down to the student union and eat.
Mhm.
Only senior year, I guess, once in a while I go off campus and eat at one of the dives on right near campus.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think I've ever been to Brookings, at least not in memory. Have I been?
No, I don't believe so.
Is it like Boyd? Is it just a tiny little place, or like what was it?
Well,
Okay.
see, when I was there, there was about I think there were 2,100 students. And by the time I was a senior, I think we're down to about 18. Now they're up to about 14, 16,000. The town itself has grown tremendously. Brookings is the fastest growing educational unit in South Dakota. And their agricultural and animal husbandry elements are all over the world. And we had a lot of foreign students. I'm trying to think, well, every school's got foreign students. But it's quite an experience for them. Matter of fact, we had Iranian and Iraqi students, and they thought, well, they're both from the Middle East, we'll put them in the same room. They were on our floor. Well, that lasted, I think, less than a week. Well, kids, I mean, the administration in South Dakota didn't know.
Right. Well, and probably, I mean, that was the first time you really had seen people who weren't from the States, right? Because it's not like there's foreign folks living in Boyd. I mean, there's not even like anybody who's not like white and German, Scandinavian living in Boyd, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
1/4 a town was Swedes, 1/4 was Norwegian, 1/4 was Germans. I mean,
that was the diversity.
Yeah, that was over exaggeration, but that's kind of how it was divided out.
Yeah.
As far
Well,
as,
I've heard too that like, but that religion was something people would really have some strong
yeah,
opinions about.
we had a strange family move in and they were Catholics.
Aha. I think I have heard, maybe from Grandma Hazel, I don't know where, that Leslie Stevens would cross the street if the Catholics were walking down on his side of the street. You think that's true?
I don't know.
Okay, anyway.
And we played football. I don't know that I was old enough to play, but one of the teams, Minnesota, had a black football player on their team.
That must have been quite a novelty. I'm sure you were all very respectful.
I don't know.
I doubt.
I wasn't playing at the time, so.
Uh-huh. So what kind of grades did you get when you were in high school and then college?
Well, I'm much better in high school, of course. In college, I was a BA student.
Yeah.
And in college, I was a BC student. I think it was I graduated with a 2.54 in college. And I don't know what the grade point was. But Uncle Roger, my brother, had all my report cards. And so he gave them to Les. And then Les went through all my report cards and gave me a bunch of garbage about what classes I did well.
Les, your nephew?
Yes.
My cousin Les? Okay.
Yes.
That's funny. Why did Uncle Roger have all your report cards?
I have no idea. Mother had them and,
Yeah, he just,
they moved.
that's funny. So there,
Report cards?
Why Roger had all my report cards.
So it sounds like you were just focused on school when you were in college, and so was most everybody else, because that was how you got through it.
Yeah. Well,
And then you must have like gone, did you go home for like spring break or anything, or did you just work, or did you like go on vacation with your friends, or like what did you do for breaks?
Well, there was always, well, first off, if you didn't go home over the weekend, you usually have Saturday either to try to catch up on the stuff you hadn't done before. And usually there were social events on campus, school dances, and other activities on Saturday night. But we were close enough that generally,
Yeah.
as freshmen particularly, just about every year, every weekend we went home. Now, as we got weaned from running home all the time, we started to stay on campus.
Mhm.
I think freshman year I was there 2 or 3 weekends. In what we wash clothes and iron and
Yeah.
get ready for the next week.
Right. So if they had dances, like did they? I mean, is this the School of Mines, or that was graduate school?
No, this is School of Mines is graduate, yeah.
Okay. So, but I mean, this is, South Dakota State. So there were girls there too, right?
Yeah. there
Okay,
was-
because it wasn't just engineering. You were in the engineering school, but there were other programs there too.
Oh, yeah, they had nurses and they had home ec and
Hold on.
it was a roughly a 4-to-1 ratio, boys to girls. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, there were ladies there.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Sam had just let us know that if we press the gallery view, then we can see him with the Lego backdrop.
Oh, I see, wow. Okay, Sam, nice move.
Yeah, he requested to join, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But now I see that there was a reason for that. It looks like we now have a new image added to our backdrop options for Zoom on the iPad too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to speaker view. Okay, there we go. Now I see Hannah and Josiah and Elijah. And now I see Grandpa Dale and Grandma Marianne.
Back in his nose.
So did you have a girlfriend?
Freshman year, I did not date.
Yeah.
Sophomore year, yeah, I guess sophomore year and junior year, I had a girlfriend.
Did she have a name?
Yeah, it was Linda Harris. And my good friend, Grant Spurl, was from Gregory, South Dakota, and so was she. And that's how we met, because with Grant, and I said, who's that gal? He says, well, she was wondering who you were. So anyway, we dated off and on for 2 years. And after many, many years, it finally dawned on me. She had kind of tried to put me in a squeeze and said that one of the kids in her class, one of the gentlemen in her class was asking her out. And so I said, well, you probably better go. One, I was in no position to get married. They had no money. But I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that she was flunking out and she was wanting to get married.
Shoot.
So
So
she didn't come back in spring.
she was kind of fishing for a proposal.
I guess so.
All different back then. too.
But she didn't come back spring
Right.
semester or quarter.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
she went back to South Dakota. I mean, she was already in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Back to whatever part of South Dakota she had been from.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Joan, this has nothing to do with this, Dale, but my first husband went to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, and they did square dancing, but there they couldn't call it square dancing, they called it square gaming, and then they could do that.
Because dancing is a Lutheran college and they couldn't dance.
right.
Is that like Missouri Synod versus whatever else?
No, it's ELCA, but
Okay.
back then,
Yeah.
I mean, this was many,
How
many
weird
years.
is that? Because they were still dancing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But was that the like risque thing that the college students were doing then? You know, like,
Well, you know what square dancing is. I mean, you go
Yeah.
around, and, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't like slow dance out in the,
no,
with lights out.
but they still couldn't do it, you know?
They couldn't call it square dancing, but square gaming
Yeah.
made it okay.
We're spinning each other around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Heather probably has never heard of square dancing.
Oh, come on. These guys know what square dancing is, right?
Yeah, I think.
Is it, so Hannah's like, yeah, I know. What about Josiah? Do you know what square dancing is?
No.
Okay, well, you tell your mama when we get done with this to pull up a YouTube video of square dancing.
Okay.
Elijah, do you know what square dancing is?
I've heard of it, but I don't know how to do it or what it is.
I know partly because when I was in a 6th grade, my best friend Lisa Nelson's parents were big time square dancers. And they had like, she had all these costumes. They have these women have these giant puffy skirts, and the men like kind of dress like cowboys. And they like spin each other around, and somebody calls out stuff, and like it's a real formal kind of, you have to know what you're doing. You don't just get out there and be like, I like to move. Like you have to know the steps, and it's
Oh yeah, the women had big crinolines under their skirts to make them stand out and wave, and yeah.
Anyway, Dad, you're making a face. Were you a square dancer?
No, I wasn't a square dancer, but what I wanted to mention, keeping in mind the boy-girl relationship, every time that we did Saturday night or whenever they'd have a dance on campus, and they'd start up a song, of course, the big rush was to go find the best girls. Well, there's probably somewhere between 5 and 8 that sat in one spot and never got asked. Now, can you imagine how they felt all night long?
Ouch.
Yeah. In retrospect, that kind of hurts.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder, like, why were they sitting there? I mean, you know, because I think then too, like,
Well, they didn't have anything else to do either, so
yeah,
But to say they'd gone to the dance.
yeah.
I guess. But like,
Yeah.
why didn't they get asked? Were they? I mean,
Ugly.
there's plenty of really physically unattractive people who still have, you know, they still like find love.
Yeah, I understand.
You know. Anyway, but they, you know, that seems mean, really. Like nobody would just go ask one of them just to be nice.
So, and I told a non-truth because I guess it was a freshman chemistry class. There was I can't remember what, it's some kind of program, and not in the auditorium, but it was a play or something. Anyway, the gal who sat next to me was a senior, and she probably wasn't going to get asked to go anywhere either, but I asked her to be my date for the night, and she accepted. So I didn't have a car, so we had to walk. Well, I don't know, maybe someone gave us a bride. But that was the only date I had my freshman year.
Freshman year at South Dakota.
Yeah.
But you didn't date anybody when you were in Boyd? I mean, didn't they
No.
have dances or something, like where you were supposed to ask somebody?
Well, you'd date somebody one time or two, and I didn't have any steady girlfriends like Alan Jelm, who married Rosie, and Art Craig
Yeah.
Mall, who had his
Were
steady
they dating in
girlfriend.
high school? Alan and
Yeah.
Rosie?
I mean, there was some of those people that had steadies, and
Yeah.
I was kind of an outsider, didn't have a car, I didn't have much money. Kind of entertain people when you don't have my charm is kind of,
No cow tipping options? It didn't
No.
impress the ladies?
so,
You didn't still have your BB gun and your German Shepherd?
no.
Let's go out and shoot
Well,
it.
I also had so much acne on my back, as an example. In the summertime, I'd
Yeah.
try to scrub my back clean. I'd use Ajax cleanser.
Oh, geez. That's not a good cleanser
you
for
would-
your body.
They'd tear the tops off the pimples,
Yeah.
and I'd put a T-shirt on and it'd bleed through your shirts.
Geez. Yeah.
So you can imagine how popular you are with blood
Oh, geez.
flowing through your clothes.
Yeah.
It
Well, and you
kinda-
probably didn't have a way to wash the blood out either. It would just stain.
Well, Grandma, you can wash the blood out, but you can
Okay.
imagine how uncomfortable you are and how it impacts your confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you try to scrub your back with Ajax?
Well, I
Thought it would help?
figured it was trying to clean the skin.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah, it hurt.
Yeah.
And I had acne on the back of my neck, as an example.
Uh-huh.
I'd be sitting in class and it'd just open up and drain
Oh, geez.
like a boil.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
what I had to put up with back then.
Yep.
I also was diagnosed with an ulcer when freshman year. So
Yeah.
Auntie Mabel would make peanut butter cookies, and I'd go down twice a day to the cafeteria and have a milk and a couple cookies. And you know how popular it was doing that with everyone else watching. But the
So that
girls,
was just to keep you from getting too hungry or something? It was just to keep you from getting too much stomach acid
acid,
buildup?
acid in the stomach,
Uh-huh.
keep it coated.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if they had bullies at Boyd, but you know, nowadays if you were like a ninth grader and you had a prescription to go get milk and cookies twice a day, I can imagine people would make fun of that.
Yeah. Well, no one really made fun of it. They didn't give me too much slip. There weren't many kids that wanted to mess with me.
Okay. Because your big brother would beat him up or what? Or you would?
No,
Did you
take care
guys
of
have
my own
fights?
business.
Did
Once in a
kids have
while,
fights?
once in a while, we'd have to keep kids in line.
Yeah? Like fist fights or like what would you do? You'd sneak up on them and
No,
I
they
don't know.
usually know that they had stepped out of line.
Uh-huh.
And
And
we
did
had
you get
some,
caught for any of this?
no. We also had some other bullies too that I didn't mess with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
So there was a hierarchy.
you had your hierarchy and pecking order and everyone
Yeah.
had their own turf. You didn't mess with them, and unless they were looking for trouble, they didn't mess with you.
But do you remember the names of any of the big bullies? Are they?
Oh, yeah, I remember some of the names.
Okay. All right. Okay. So then you escaped and you went to South Dakota State and you worked really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then you graduated from South Dakota State.
yes.
And then did you go to the Army then, or was that later?
Well, keep in mind that I took the first 2 years in college, you're required to take ROTC,
Uh-huh.
Reserve Officer Training Course. And then I signed up for an advanced course, and I had planned to do that even as a freshman. And so the junior year and senior year, we actually were given a small stipend for going to ROTC classes. That's not true. But we were, in fact, enrolled, if you will, in the Army. But this was a conflict because the engineering school did not recognize credits from the ROTC department.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the times, I remember one semester, I went to school at 7 o'clock in the morning because I was on the ROTC, I was on the brigade staff, and I got home at 5 o'clock at night with 1 hour lunch break,
Jeez.
3 days a week.
Yikes. And then you also had to take other classes too.
Oh yeah, sure, you took your normal load.
Yeah.
The one
You were
time,
working hard.
the one time they would not deconflict
Mhm.
classes. So the instructor said, well, you come down to the ROTC department and you can read through my notes. Well, that was almost useless because there was no emphasis on what was important. I'd read through the notes, but it didn't mean much to me.
Right.
So anyway, that's part of life. You lived with it. And then I was given our junior, between junior and senior year, we went off to Fort Riley, Kansas for ROTC summer camp.
Mhm.
And I was selected as a distinguished military student. So anyway, that gave me an opportunity. If I accepted that, I became a regular Army officer versus a reserve officer.
Mhm.
Graduated. So we graduated on 3 August, and I took the oath of office, and I was in the Army.
While you were still in school then?
No, I graduated on 3rd of August,
Oh, okay, got it. Yes.
1962, and I was in the Army.
You're in the Army right then. Okay. And then, so that wasn't the GI Bill or anything because you already had your degree.
Yeah,
It was just regular Army recruitment.
yeah.
But you had a special in because of your previous ROTC.
Yeah, we were commissioned as second lieutenants at South Dakota State.
Uh-huh.
In the Corps.
And then
of
where did you go? You were in Fort Riley then. And
No,
did you have to do boot camp?
I went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, to the officer
Okay.
basic course, engineer officer basic course.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there for 3 months. And then we went the way, well, it was broken up different groups, but we went to Fort Benning, Georgia,
Mhm.
and did airborne training before Christmas. And after Christmas, we went back out to Fort Benning, Georgia. Over Christmas vacation, I had driven to Florida, to West Palm Beach, Florida,
Mhm.
to be with Jeff and Pearl for Christmas.
Did they have kids?
No,
Okay.
anyway, Jeff was pretty proud of his nephew because I had my dress uniform. We went to church with him on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And I came back to Benning we started Ranger School in January. January through March. And then after that, stopped in Boyd on the way going out to Fort Lewis, Washington.
So you just stopped by there to see your mom and
Yeah,
friends and
sure.
at this point Danny Kuhlman is off doing his own thing and you were just kind of on your own.
There in Minneapolis. He had a gaggle of South Dakota State guys, some of them working for Honeywell, some of them working for others.
Mhm.
But they had, if I remember right, they had a team house. And he finally, he went to graduate school at Colorado State, and that's where I met his wife. I guess she was a student there also, and her folks were in the faculty. But yeah, after graduation, really didn't have that much time together.
Yeah. When did you meet Ted Trainer?
The first day I was at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. I shouldn't say the first day because I got there, I don't know, 5th or the 8th or something like that. And he was married, so he lived in, I don't know exactly where he's living, but of course, when we got together for class, you lined up by sequence number. In other words, your date of graduation, because the guy who graduated first was in charge. And then they would go by grades.
Mhm.
Anyway, because we had the same commissioning date, we were pretty close together, so that's how we got together and knew each other.
So he was married to Judy or did he have married to somebody else at that time?
No, he was married to Judy.
Okay.
Matter of fact, she was still in New England, I think, when he went through. She stayed up there while he went through the basic course, airborne and ranger school. So we went through all those together.
Yeah.
But we were, well, like an a ranger school rather. I was in charge of the little shack. We had eight guys in the shack. And so I was a senior member. And so I was in charge. And, he was in a different one. But he and Bill Burns and I and about 3 other guys were all going to Fort Lewis, Washington upon completion of our specialized training. So we got acquainted.
I remember Bill Burns.
Yeah, he
I
lived
remember
here.
that he had a son that died from like falling out of a truck or something awful. like that.
Yes.
Is Bill Burns still around?
Yes.
Okay.
He lives here outside of town, about 20 miles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his son was at West Point
Oh.
and dropped out his senior year. I think it's kind of fuzzy now, but I think what he had done something and he was penalized, and so he just dropped out. And then he joined a Wall Street firm, and he was doing rather well. And the Army said, "Oh, by the way, you have an obligation."
You owe us all the money for your education?
So he was called back to active duty as a PFC or an EU2 and went through basic course. And they were graduating from their basic course when they were all celebrating and having a good time. And he was in the back of a pickup, sitting on the railing. And they went around the corner too fast and he fell out, hit his head.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, loss of a good potential smart individual.
Yeah. But I didn't know Bill Burns lived in Hunts or around Huntsville. I don't even remember. Like, I remember his name, and I remember that he would come and cook and make a giant mess in Mary Ann's kitchen.
Yep.
So you guys were all. So did Ted have kids already? Because I mean, his kids were all older than me and Jeff by quite a bit, right?
Yeah, he had all the kids. When we were at Fort Lewis, Washington, I don't remember how old Teddy, the youngest one, was. I think he was just an infant baby. But yeah, they had all three of them there. Hang on a second, I get a ringer dinger. Stevens. Oh, fine, fine. Let me give you a jingle back. I'm zooming with my daughter. And okay. That's Mike Moran, my Army buddy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when did you meet Mike Moran? I mean, I don't even know who Mike Moran is.
Mike Moran and I were in Thailand together as hooch mates. There were 4 of us in a hooch in 1969.
Well, that was the year I was born.
Yeah.
So I know of the word hooch means like illegal alcohol.
No, well, it's used for that, but it was a small house, and we had 4 corners with bedrooms, and then a center common area.
Yeah.
And it was just a shelter, and you had walls and a doorway into your space. Kind of rudimentary.
But you had, I mean, Mom was there, right? I mean, you were married already.
Yeah. We were married, and she was in Bangkok, and occasionally would come up to Karat. And then I could go into town, or she'd come down.
So you were not living together, though, even though
No,
you were married.
no.
Oh, okay.
We were working on the road, and one of the events, I went about, I don't know how many nights, coughing. Well, the battalion doctor was also in our hooch, and he finally told the battalion commander, "Get him out of here." I went to Bangkok, and I slept for 24 hours straight.
Jeez. You were sick.
Yeah.
You needed some rest. Good thing the doctor was in your hooch, huh? Because otherwise you just would have been going.
Yes.
So this is not a new thing, this like continuing to push yourself even in the face of all kinds of physical ailments and stuff.
Well, you have to do what's necessary to get the job done. I was a company commander, so I had responsibility for that.
Yeah.
We're trying to pave a road, and you had to be down on the work site with people, and there's just always dust. And it just was constant cough every night. And I was just exhausted.
So yeah, because I don't even really know what you did when you were, or even like, you know, you were special forces. Like this had nothing to do with being special forces, right? Did that
No,
you're already special forces trained person, but now doing like construction stuff, or?
Well, we went to Fort Lewis, Washington, which is to an engineer battalion of an infantry division. So the engineers would divide out and support smaller segments of the infantry of the division.
So infantry means like on the ground fighting people.
Right. But they need trenches dug, and they need holes put here, and they need people to scout for tank track or for avenues or travel, and we have to upgrade the roads so they can drive on them and that kind of stuff.
But there was no fighting in Thailand, was there?
No. Thailand was 10 years later.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so this is before me and Mom and everything.
Yeah, well, anyway, so I was at Fort Lewis, Washington for roughly 1 year. And I put in a request to go to Europe. And 10 days later, I get a call, Second Lieutenant Stevens in Fort Lewis, Washington, from the Pentagon. How about Okinawa? Where's that? Why not? Anyway, so I was assigned to Okinawa to,
Well, you didn't have a choice, did you?
well, I could have said, no, I don't want to go.
Okay.
Then sent me somewhere else, I guess.
Okay.
But they had positions and I had requested to move.
Yeah.
And so they were happy to make the marriage. And so anyway, went to Okinawa and joined this, what was called the 539th Engineer Detachment of the 1st Special Forces Group. That put me on airborne status. And so we really, our commander couldn't get any of the special forces units to use us to support them. So he went down to various countries. He made a loop in the Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, and other places, and offered our services. So we had at least 5 teams that went into Vietnam. I had a team of myself and 4 NCOs.
Non-commissioned officers.
Yeah. And we worked for the United USOM, United States Operation Mission, which was a civilian group that was trying to aid development within the country.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our mission was to drill water wells, but we had no equipment, no specialty training. So the first thing we did, they built a 3-stage tower for us. We helped build it out of 2-inch galvanized pipe that was about 20, matter of fact, 4 levels. So about 24 feet high, maybe 21 foot. We had an old World War I Jeep, maybe World War II Jeep. And we, 2 of the NCOs were mechanics. So we got the Jeep to run. It had a red lead hood on it. Weren't smart enough to know the difference at the time, but that was kind of that was protected by the Buddhists
Oh, why?
because it was orange.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Anyway, we also were allocated a 1.5 ton Ford truck
Mhm.
that they got running, and it didn't have any exhaust system, so we put a 2-inch straight pipe for exhaust system, and we built a big metal toolbox go in the back of this truck
Mhm.
to all our equipment around.
Yeah.
And then we were sent out in the country to go do good things. Well, I had some training in school about water,
Mhm.
but I'd never worked on a drill rig before.
Mhm.
Had no idea. So we set the drill rig up, and well, it was kind of a rudimentary process, and you'd have to, I wrote a paper on it, about a 5-page paper. You'd have to see how this works. A lot of it was experimental, but we actually were able to set a pipe down about 45 feet or 60 feet, something like that. And we got a gasoline pump engine and put on it, and we could pump water out of this hole in the ground.
Wow.
So one of the answers when you're drilling water wells, you're pumping water in for drill water to bring stuff out. And when the water disappears, it means it's hitting other water and seeking its own level.
Mhm.
So that's a good time to check to see if you have fresh water. So we put the pipe in with the screen at the bottom, and then we had an air compressor threw down the hose down to the screen, and the air compressor would throw the water out, and then there'd be a cavity, water would rush in and it'd blow the water out, and that caused a surge back and forth of the material, it's sand material around the screen. And it's part of the development because the little fines in the sand would enter in the screen and be blown out of the well, and your larger grains would collect around the screen. So it, in fact, be like a filter. But the water was pretty good. We drank it. The community liked it. The barbershop liked it. Anyway, so
But you guys didn't know what you were doing, or you kind of mostly did, or like, I mean, the way that you just described it, it sounds like you were just sort of there going, we're supposed to make a well.
yep,
Like, what can we put together?
you got it. And it all worked.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the first well that we drilled. And the community that we did this in, we tried to get back into it sometime later, and they said, you're not going out here without a military escort. We were just running the roads, fattened up, happy. And sometime later, we moved in with an engineer compound because he was a good guy, old Missouri boy, and he knew we were orphans. And while we were there, one of his captains had been ambushed and killed. So it was a hostile area, but he had Vietnamese counterparts. And the word has been passed down that don't mess with us because whatever we're doing will be left after we leave. So we were kind of hands off.
So this was in Vietnam, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even know that you'd ever been in Vietnam.
Oh, I was there for 12 months, two
I didn't know
6-month rotations.
Huh.
We had one of our small teams had an assignment, and the only way they could get there, they'd go to a checkpoint, and they were told, if you pass here, you have to have a red T-shirt. Guess what? So they wore red T-shirts.
Trade off the red T-shirts, yeah.
Away you go.
Yeah,
It was hostile territory.
wow.
Anyway, it was kind of a crazy time.
You guys didn't speak any Vietnamese or anything. How did you even communicate with the people there?
Well, we had some Vietnamese that worked with us.
Okay.
I think we had 3 or 4 Vietnamese counterparts that had been working for USAM. And so they could do some interpretation. And we picked up numbers, like I could count to 100. And we had.
Can you count it all? Do you remember any of it?
Not now. I could have 10 years ago, but not anymore. I tried to teach the one guy how to drive. We had an airfield at one of the towns that up country. And so we'd go up on the airfield and we had this Jeep. And so I was trying to teach him how to use the clutch and the brake. Hannah will appreciate that. She doesn't have to do clutches and brakes. She just hits the accelerator.
This was a Vietnamese guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh. Did he drive? Were you safe?
No, but we didn't go very fast. But there's a lot of little things like that that he did for kicks.
Why was your unit sort of an orphan unit? Like, why were you not, what was that about?
Well, the special forces, the guys of Green Berets, they had 11-man teams, and they would, in the C teams and B teams and A teams. And so it was like clusters. They'd have a headquarters and they'd have all these little cells out. And the cells would hire local nationals, Montagnard, tribesmen, and they'd train them to fight their own battles.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it turned out good and sometimes it didn't. They used to pay these people with money, Vietnamese money, and the special forces headquarters back in Saigon would take the Vietnamese money and weigh it and use a pitchfork to put it in a bag because it was so worthless.
Yeah.
that it wasn't worth the time counting it. So that's the way they send the bag out to the field and they paid the troops.
Mhm. Did they also provide food or anything else? I mean, wasn't Vietnam sort of being destroyed by this war, and people were losing their livelihoods and their food and
Well, they've been fighting for ages and ages. I mean, this was not new to them. But it was, the French had been in there before we had been.
uh-huh.
The French had tried to teach them. That didn't work out so well because the French had a superiority complex and didn't want to work with the locals. We came in and tried to teach them how to take care of themselves. And in some cases it was beneficial, sometimes it wasn't. That was just the way it is. Anyway, I have a suspicion our audience is getting slimmer and slimmer.
I was gonna send a chat and say, I'm happy to keep going.
Well,
But,
I had a
you
treatment
probably
this morning
get
too,
a
so
little tired talking too.
anyway,
Okay. It's probably a graceful time to exit, and we're actually pretty close to like about an hour and a half.
yeah, how about
Yeah.
those kitty poos have anything, questions or did we learn anything? Or we're all ready to sign up to be soldiers? Anna's hiding.
You aspire to grow up to live without running water or electricity?
No,
I'm good.
I like. Okay. Well, I guess we'll go.
Yeah.
They probably
Okay.
won't have any questions for you, Grandpa, until they're like in their 20s.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, let's do it again, but maybe we'll not fight them.
Yeah, someday.
Oh,
Okay.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
bye. Love you
Bye.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's that monkey?
Bye, Josiah.
That one right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Talk
Bye.
to you later.